Hey, welcome to Men on Everything, our show where we look at everything and talk about it all. And we've got a full panel today. Everybody's back, man. Got Mark Clark in New York, got Troy Johnson in Washington, D.C. I'm Tony Scott in St. Louis in my basement. Fellas, Charles Barkley, man, decided that he was going to tell the worst kept secret with black people, and that's that, you know, they're defeating themselves, man. Can't get out of their own way. I don't know if you heard the comments or not, but Charles says that, you know, unless, you know, you're because the whole thing about Russell Wilson being black enough, and Charles Barkley says, well, you're only black enough if you're like a thug or stupid, and that you know basically is what he's saying, and it's ridiculous, man. What do you guys think? Is he on point, man? Dr. Steve Perry said, I applaud his comments because he's right on, and sometimes the truth hurts, man.
I think he is brilliant because the NBA season starts tonight. And that's why he made the statement. And, well, I mean, somebody's got to watch TNT.
That's true.
So, I mean, why of all moments, I think people need to analyze sometimes, why are you hearing certain things from certain people? We haven't heard from Charles Barkley since the end of the NBA season.
That's
so
true.
Now, here's his window. The season kicks off, he makes a controversial comment, and now a lot of people are talking about it. I think he is taking the reins of Bill Cosby, who is now finding a little bit of backlash himself, which I hope we get to talk about.
Yeah.
It's an opinion. You know, it's an opinion. I think we obviously, I think oftentimes in our community, we know that there are problems, but we don't want, it's like family business. Mm-hmm. Try to keep it in the family.
Yeah.
And act like the rest of the world can't analyze what also could be contributing to the issues that we have going on.
But anytime you talk about issues involving a group of people, don't you first have to look inside the group of people to some degree to you know, because sometimes it's just a matter of like a self-exam. Even like, you know, like when I got let go from my job, you know, reflecting over since I got let go, you know, I reflect on myself and maybe what I could have done better and things like that. Yes. Isn't it normal to do something like that?
Yes.
Yes. But not if Charles Barkley.
I think yes, I think like Troy said, you're right. That was a great point. The NBA season is getting ready to start, but Charles Barkley, who Troy always talks about Charles' comments, is not afraid to go there, and it seems like he can go places other people can't go and not have the backlash. And I even think this is a prime example. Charles Barkley can pretty much say whatever he wants to say, it seems like, and survive. And so, and what he said, yeah, I mean, just like Bill Cosby, a lot of people feel that way. And I think in our private, like Troy said, in our private moments or in the family, we have these conversations, but we don't have them outside the family. And so I think, yes, a lot of people agree with what he said. I'm not mad at him. He can do it. He can do it. A lot of people can't do it. And if you can do it, why not? You know? Well, and his point, it is true. It is ridiculous that we get in this stupid argument about if you're black enough and all this within our own circles, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, because I mean, he also made reference to the point that no other race does that. Nobody else does that. Are you white enough? Are you Asian enough? Are you Latino enough? All the Latinos do that. You know, Latinos like myself who don't speak Spanish tend to be looked down on by Latinos who do speak Spanish.
I saw that happen to Tony. I saw them do it to Tony. The damn shame. They made Tony use the back door, too. I got just as much love as Tony did at the Hispanic Event.
Yeah, well. But, you know, I also read a post last night that said that Charles Barkley isn't allowed to speak on anything black because he's married to a white woman. And I was thinking, what the hell has that got to do with anything? Well, are we that divided? I mean, really?
I think there's a plus and a minus for us. You know, sadly, when you talk about other people of color, from Indians to Native Americans to Hispanics, they don't get the mic as much as we do. So they don't get exposed to all the ignorance that we do also. Like, the opportunity to say some crazy stuff, we're the kings of that, too.
Yeah.
I got something to say. You never hear a Native American grab the mic, like with this whole thing going on to Redskins. Not once have I heard anybody like grab the mic and say something really crazy from a Native American perspective. They're like, I love the colors, and I hope they keep wearing it because I love green, I love burgundy. You just never.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
That's because they're in the booth they're in the not press box, the sky box with the owner of the Redskins.
Yeah.
Drinking wine and chilling.
They were sleeping at the game too.
There is since just I don't want to get off the sidetrack, but Mark, since you mentioned the Washington football team, they do have a Hail to the Redskins Twitter account, which, from what I understand, is the team and some former players who are trying to promote the positive image of the name and the trademark and all that stuff. And there have been videos of Native Americans making comments about, they are fans of the team. They're fans. They don't mind the logo and all that stuff. But it does seem, if you look at it, it does seem a little bit like, wait a minute.
Well, they get the side eye because they got paid off. Yeah.
Yeah. Dan Snyder may have possibly contributed to those communities. So he's trying to bridge so he can keep the name. Anyway, if you want to check it out, it's kind of interesting.
So Bill Cosby, man, is a woman stepped forward yesterday, and I think she's like the 13th one who says that Bill was inappropriate with her back in the day. He made her grab his pudding pop and this, that, and the other, and it's hard to believe, not because he is so revered, but it's hard to believe that it takes this long. It makes you doubt the story because nothing has happened in the last since what was it? I don't know, when was the last time that actually, when it was was it ever a current story? Was it always something that happened?
Something that happened this century.
Yeah.
But I want to say early, 2001, 3, somewhere in there.
See, I thought it was last century, but I could be wrong.
Well, the thing is, Tony, the problem here is the evidence is kind of there. I mean, all you do is Google it. Google Bill Cosby. There's 13, 14 cases. So
you're saying 13, 14 cases, they can't all be making it up?
I doubt if they're all making it up. I mean, I think it's the same. It's the same story. It's the same. It's the same story being regurgitated. I think it was a different time. I think it was a different time. It is very shocking, and I think it's ironic. I mean, I saw the interview with Hannibal Buress, who I really enjoy as a comedian, who I understand he got Dave Chappelle in that you end up you do your routine at your comedy club. You do it all the time. You do your routine all the time. Then this one time somebody taped this, and then the news or the story comes out like it's a big expose when it really is a punchline. It's a joke. It's I'm sure it's the same thing. It'd be the same thing like Woody Allen. If you went to a comedy club, you do a Woody Allen routine, and then someone says, "Oh, Hannibal Buress says this." And so then I heard him on Howard Stern. He was like, I've been doing this, bit for 6 months, and I didn't plan on it being a news story because it's in the news. It's on the universe. You can just Google anybody, and you can find out stuff like this,
But how ironic he did it in Philadelphia, which is Bill Cosby's hometown, and I think that's probably where it got some traction. And he did say in his comments, in his routine, he said, I want to make watching old episodes of the Cosby extremely uncomfortable for you.
Yeah,
from now on.
But that's a punchline. I mean,
it's a punchline. Yeah, but
he was I'm sorry. He was right. It's a part of the whole thing because you're telling the jokes, you're going in on Bill Cosby, and then like you say, the logical question is why is he? Because you're sitting there and you're laughing, but you're probably just shocked. And then you're like, why is he doing this? And that's when he said that line. He said, why am I doing this? I just want to make watching the Cosby very uncomfortable for you every time you watch it. You know what I mean? So it's it was funny because again, as Bill Cosby, he calls Bill Cosby, hey, you shouldn't cuss on stage. Bill Cosby quit raping people. It's pull your pants up. Quit raping people.
Pull your pants up. Hey, Bill. Pull your pants up.
And he said, again, with people, if you take it out of context, the news kind of took it he said, basically, I can't stand that old smug black man telling me what to do, and your ass is off the chain. That actually sounds like a perception of Troy Johnson, but sounds like something Troy would say. So it kind of took because we have run across these guys all the time, and it hurt though. I mean, it doesn't hurt, yes, but I think I've told the story before. Allison and I were in an award event, and Malik Yoba shared this on stage, which was like, huh? He was talking about when he was an actor, and he was at the height of that fame, and he was confused, and he didn't really know how to handle it. He approached Bill Cosby and Jesse Jackson backstage, and the girl he was with, number one, knew both of them, and she scurried away, and then they both made some comments about her. And then, so after that, Malik Yoba was like, well, damn, these are the two guys I had an opportunity. Then I saw them. I was going to ask them about this whole fame piece, but their energy and the way they responded to the young lady was like, wow, two of my icons, and they can't help me out.
Wow. Well,
and we know their history. Alleged.
Such a small world. I don't know.
And he shared that on stage at an awards at an award event. It was kind of awkward. All right, Malik Yoba, thank you very much. Our next award goes to courage.
Yeah, that's true. So a couple of superintendents here in the St. Louis area are wanting, if this, whatever the indictment, if there's no indictment for Darren Wilson, they want it to be announced on the weekend and not during the week. So it's not to interrupt school any more than it has. Because, you remember when it happened the first time with the unrest, there was a delay in a couple of schools getting started because of the unrest. And so superintendents, I don't even know if that's realistic to do. I don't know if they would even I don't even know if a school plays into the equation of when you make an announcement. I don't even know if it should play into the equation. I'm not sure. But I do know that a lot of people are starting to get uneasy because they're feeling that Darren Wilson is not going to be indicted. And I don't know why he would not be indicted, because if he's indicted, it doesn't mean that he's going to jail. It just means it moves to the next step in the judicial system. It means he goes to trial. So it means there's enough evidence to move forward, basically, is what an indictment means. And there has to be at least that.
Well, you have the precedent of the law in the United States that, essentially protects law enforcement officers. Mm-hmm. And I think it's kind of, I don't mean it like this, but kind of stacks the deck, kind of creates an environment where, if you're innocent until proven guilty, and I'm not a lawyer, but if you're a police officer, there's kind of a built-in protection. So officers are not always having to face legal charges in situations where they're acting as police officers. So I think it's probably that's something that's been around for a very, very, very long time. Just makes the burden of proof more difficult. And I think you and many other people believe that, Tony, that the evidence that we've seen, with Exhibit A, there's a dead teenager. I mean, you really have to go beyond that. And obviously the community is in an outrage still, which, I keep saying is a good thing, because people are not letting this go. And not just the death of Michael Brown, but they want improvements in the community. In and around St. Louis it's been wrong for a long time, and people are willing to step out there and protest and go to meetings and stuff like that. That's so critical to continue to be engaged that way. I hope, and I keep saying this on our shows, that I hope people look at what people are doing in Ferguson and in and around St. Louis and say, if you have issues in your community before somebody dies, before somebody is put in jeopardy, you need to be doing the same things. Right. Go to these city council meetings and talk to these folks and start getting involved, and then you get some changes. So I know I've been ranting for a long time. Last comment, the group Anonymous, who have been posting on Twitter in support of people that are protesting in Ferguson, they they put out information today about Darren Wilson still living in the St. Louis area, that he's changed his name, he's changed his appearance quite a bit, and has been comfortable enough to get out in the community, so much so because he believes he's not going to get indicted. He actually went to a Blues game the other day, and they said also that the person that and again, these are all statements that were put out by this group, anonymous, but they say they're getting information from sources within the county government, I believe. They say that the woman who made the phone call to the radio station, Josie, not long after the shooting, is someone who works for a company that does work with the Ferguson Police Department. So so you have all that out there if you want to look at some of the things. And they also say that they believe the fact that he won't get indicted will come down on the 10th of November. That's the day they say likely all this will begin to kick off.
They said to make sure that there wasn't a racial problem, he went places where there'll be no white people. He went to the Blues game, and he also went ice skating. No black people.
Where there be no black people?
Yeah. No black people, yeah. So St. Louis County Police, I was reading, has spent almost $175,000 buying stuff to be ready for any unrest. $25,000 for 650 tear gas grenades, smoke and gas grenades, smoke canisters, hornet's nest, CS Sting grenades, which shoot out dozens of rubber bullets and a powder chemical agent upon detonation. Spent $18,000 on 1,500 beanbag rounds and 6,000 pepper balls, paintball-style projectiles that explode with a chemical irritant when they strike a protester. So they spent another $77,500 on 235 riot gear helmets, 135 shields, 25 batons, 60 sets of shin guards, and other uniform items. $2,300 were used to buy another 2,000 set of the plastic handcuffs that have been used to detain a lot of people. So they've been spending, all added up, almost $175,000 getting ready. And there's been lots of talk on the radio that the first time this happened, the police were basically caught off guard. This time they're going to be cracking heads.
Well, the good news is if nothing happens, they'll be able to use all those shin guards for a charity game against the Blues. And with all those beanbags, everybody can play cornhole. So that's the good
news. Is there a voice, Tony? Has there been a voice of calm in this, trying to prepare the community for this not moving forward? Is there a voice that's been a logical voice or a voice of calm that's been prominent, or not necessarily?
No.
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 Well, the problem is,
the voice is Tony Scott.
Well, the problem is that there are different factions, and they all want the same thing. They want justice for Mike Brown, and they want change.
Yes.
But there is so much infighting, and it happens a lot. I follow a lot of them on social media, and there's a lot of this going back and forth, accusing each other of things like that. And I've said this on my podcast. You guys got to quit doing that. Mm. You got to do what grown people do and take that behind closed doors, meet face to face like adults do, and hash it out. You guys can't be doing this on social media. You're doing more harm than good when you do that. Don't accuse someone of having their own agenda on social media. Confront them in person. Talk to them in person, because you are, for every positive step forward you make to making change in Ferguson and this area, you take a step back when you put that stuff on social media, but it continues to happen. So as far as one voice, no, because it's not really united. Some of these protesters met at the Mayor Slay of St. Louis, of the city of St. Louis. He met with some of the protesters, and they told him that they want body cameras for police, and he says they're working on that. They want a civilian police review board. He says they're working on that. And then he told them, he says, you guys need to come together with one agenda, and then come and meet with mayors and county executives and things like that. So you're of one, because we can't meet with you. You got these things, and then they got these things, and then them over there have their own thing. We're not going to get anything accomplished. And I thought that was a great point. Yes. Another thing that came out, which I totally agree with. there are only 3 black police officers in Ferguson, and a lot of people are referring to them as Uncle Toms. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, they don't have enough black police officers in Ferguson, and the ones they do have, you're calling them Uncle Toms because they're on the police force. You can't do that. That's just you can't criticize them. They're on the police force. You know what I'm saying? Am I making sense?
Yeah. Is Anthony Shaheed still around?
Yeah.
And what's his? Has he been participating, or is he a player in this at all?
I haven't heard a lot of mention of his name, but that doesn't mean that he's not a player.
Is Onion still around?
I haven't heard from Onion. I know James Clark, Better Family Life.
Okay.
They're heavily involved in things like that, and it's interesting because there was one town hall meeting where Miss Robbie's son Tim from Sweetie Pies, he went on, and he was on local TV, and I'm sure it was probably shown nationally. It was one of the first town hall meetings, and he told the preachers they need to get out from behind the pulpit and get in the streets, and he was very passionate and he was very angry.
Was this before the charge or after the charge?
I don't know, man. I don't follow that, man. So I have no idea. But we do know that something's going to happen very soon, and it's a little frightening, to be honest with you. A lot of people are going to have to decide if they're going to go to work that day or that week. And a lot of parents are going to have to decide if they're going to send their kids to school that day or that next day or that week. It's going to be a lot. There's a lot to that. It's going to affect everybody one way or another in this area.
I think the problem is, and I revert to an old friend of ours named Jason Troy Johnson.
Yeah, not the government.
The protest,
the government tag.
The protest angle I like because at least people are, involved. Mm-hmm. But the reality is the most effective thing to do, I'm sure Jason would say, is to vote, to come up with a plan and put the people that you think best represent you in office. That's more powerful than all of the demonstrations and tearing down, and because it only can go so far. Like, again, let's say they're not going to move forward with this at all, right? All you would have is just people mad and tearing stuff up, and when you look up, nothing changes. Versus if people did come together with a voting conscience and come up with a plan. So that's the part. You got to have a plan, and I think that's not just Ferguson. That's everywhere. I mentioned this last week. In New York, and I'm sure it reflects all the cities. The 50 plus basically are the voters. And like in most places, they're voting. They're doing 75% of the voting. Everybody else, the rest is everybody else. That means like nobody, right? And so until people start to harness their voting power and their voices in one unified front, then it's just kind of like you're spinning your wheels. It's a lot of news, it's a lot of anger, it's a lot of frustration, but you're not really doing anything.
And when you think back to, the litmus test for protest. Maybe the gold standard could be the civil rights movement because, what people saw were people marching, people putting themselves in harm's way at lunch counters, on buses all over the South, at the steps of city halls in segregated communities. But they didn't just show up and do that. They trained for that. Students that were a part of this. So first of all, young people made the big difference, much like they're doing in this situation in Ferguson. It's the young people that are moving the agenda. But in the 60s, those young people were trained by the Dr. Kings and the other leaders of the civil rights movement on nonviolent interaction. What do you do? And remember, no cell phones, no pagers, nothing like that. Coordinated situations without the level of communication that we have today. So if we're going to go here, this is what we're going to say. And you get arrested, this is what we're going to do. And here's how we react to all these situations. I think that's why it's important to have some leadership in this situation. I think Mark asked a great question about, who's a player in this situation because, people turn up and turn out, but will they do it with a concerted agenda, moving like a unit? Not only, like you said, in the conversation when you get to the table, but even in the protests.
Right.
And
there's a lot of misinformation. People are starting rumors that are not true that really, I think, hurts the cause. And false accusations, things like that just don't seem to help at all. And there's a lot to be done. There's a lot of room for change, but we got to get on the same page. And I think that's we're getting to a point where it may be too late pretty soon to get on the same page, and that frightens me because that's going to anger a lot of people, and a lot of people act out when they're angry. Speaking of acting out when you're angry, that nurse in New Jersey who was held against her will, if you listen to her, for the 21-day quarantine, demanded to be let out. She said, "I've been tested twice. I don't have Ebola. Let me out. It's a violation of my human rights." And they finally let her go, I believe, either yesterday or today. But I remember talking about it on my podcast yesterday, and I was like, well, are her rights being violated? Maybe so, but what was for the greater good, though? Is it better to be safe than sorry? Or is it better to respect someone's rights and not to hold them against their will if they've done nothing wrong?
I don't, my opinion on this is there had to be another way to make that happen. If you wanted to hold her and decide where to take her, hello, Emory Hospital or NIH in Bethesda, why not take her there? Or take her to a hospital. There has to be a hospital in New York City at this point that is prepared to address the situation with Ebola.
But I don't think, Troy, she wanted to be taken anywhere. I think she just wanted to be let go so she could live her life because she insisted, right, I don't have this.
Well, I mean, you're right. They held her way too long. Look, you had to make sure that she was okay. If she tested negatively twice, then move on. But my point is, those the first 1, 2, 3 days or so, take her somewhere. Take her to a hospital. I'll leave her in a tent out on a tarmac somewhere. They didn't even let the woman take a shower.
No, they didn't. They didn't.
And I think this is the problem with. I think we're seeing a whole bunch of inconsistencies. We're seeing a whole bunch of inconsistencies. Number one, when it first started, I think you saw that just like with 9/11. To be honest, I think the average person...
We weren't ready for it, Mark.
We weren't ready for it. Thank you. Saved a lot of conversation, right, Tony? We weren't ready for it, okay?
Yeah.
And the nurses, they are inside the animal. So it's almost like, let me tell you something, this is some BS, and how dare you snatch me up on this BS when we're not ready for it on a whole bunch of levels. From people even putting on and taking off the proper defense wear. That's a whole thing. It's not some random. This is how you do. You know what I'm saying? And they weren't trained. They weren't trained in it. They weren't ready for it. And I think she felt like, don't make me the fall person for this. And then look at the inconsistencies of all the coverage of these people who've had it and haven't had it. You got the sister that the media just kind of let go because they felt like she was, I guess, a lone wolf on it, and they almost felt like, oh, we don't know what's happening with her. And their family saying that she no longer has the virus. The hospital refuses to comment about it, but she's like going home. What is going on? This is some inconsistency. The little boy in here, right, in New York, they had, hey, don't worry about it. It's not contagious. So why y'all have all this on coming to the projects, but we don't have anything, and you take the little boy away in a little bubble. It was like, to hear the comments from the community was crazy, because it is crazy. It's like, you have nothing to worry about, but don't touch me. And he was in your housing complex, but you're fine. But be careful. So I think there's a lot of inconsistency here. It's very, very frustrating for me, as you know, as a conspiracy guy, because it just looks like things are falling apart. It's like, what is going on here?
Well, I don't think we would have ever been prepared for Ebola in this country. You know, you have the CDC and we have health officials and experts and all that, but you know, we were never prepared for 9/11 because it never crossed our mind that something like that could happen in this country. And I think most of us, if you know, the majority of us probably thought that Ebola, we've heard of it. We're not really sure what it is. We know it's deadly. It can be deadly, but it's not going to be in this country. And it turns out that it is, and we weren't ready for it. But I don't know if we can be ready for every situation. I don't even know if that's possible. You know, I'm not real sure about that.
We have to have a contingency plan. Why we have troops? What, 3,000 now? Why?
Oh,
do you know why?
Working on the Ebola case?
Yeah.
In Africa.
Yeah, they're in Africa, but we don't even know how to do it here. And what is the plan? And what is the plan? I mean, it seems like a very, like you said, we say we're not ready for it, but that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable to say you're not ready for something. You're the damn United States of America. You know, It's like, and if you're not ready for it, again, there's not one hospital, like Troy mentioned. If you have, right now, if somebody has it, why aren't they at the spot where we're treating them? Why, you know, if you don't, your hospital's not equipped to handle it, then why are the people even going to your hospital? Because it sounds like if you take a person who has Ebola to a hospital that's not prepared, that the chances of not only spreading increase, but also that person who's sent to the hospital, his chances of surviving are smaller. So it just sounds like to me, I think I'm shocked by, again, the lack of organization in this situation.
Well, I know, Troy, we talked last week, and I still don't know. Troy and I talked last week off the air about this, and it's like, okay, there's no cure for Ebola, so how are these people becoming Ebola free? How does that? I haven't been able to reconcile that and I've tried looking for it, can't find anything that explains that. If there's no cure for Ebola, how do these folks who have Ebola, how are they no longer Ebola? If you're Ebola free once you've had it, aren't you cured?
Well, here's what
I'm still hugging the president if you Ebola free.
what I learned in listening to a news report very carefully, that hasn't been highlighted a lot, was the fact.
And why is that?
I don't know why. But the first patient, the first American, the doctor, remember the male doctor who was taken to Atlanta for treatment. He and others that have recovered from Ebola, and I would imagine not just in this country, but let's say specifically in the U.S., him and the older woman who also recovered, so they now have an antibody in their bloodstream that can kill Ebola.
There is a cure.
Well, if you survive Ebola, at least this is what I heard in this report, if you survive it, then your body can produce, there's an immunity to it. So what they're doing is they're creating a serum with their blood that has the antibody in it that is helping these people recover. So they have donated their blood after the fact to help these other patients. And it's and the antibodies in their blood system, when they're now passed on to a patient with Ebola, those antibodies begin to kill the Ebola, and that's how it's working.
So I guess that would be the cure. There is a cure.
Well, here's the thing. I think, Tony. So again, back to that sister that I think they sent home, right?
Yeah, today they actually she spoke today. Yeah.
So, they didn't go into how she was treated at all. Why? You know what I'm saying? If you're Ebola free and you're going home, I haven't seen one news report on her treatment. I just know at first the family was like, "Oh my God, she's Ebola free," and the hospital refused to comment. And then now she's going.
The CDC was like, "We have no idea what you're talking about."
Exactly. So now, if she is Ebola free and going home, well, we need to know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah.
CDC, why would, and even the news, well, and she's going home today. Okay, how the hell is she going home?
Yeah.
Did Big Mama cure her? Would she use some, she used Father John's cough syrup and some damn,
some Glory Greens.
And mixed up that tussin.
And sent her home? What the hell's going on, man?
I don't know, man. I don't know. And that's the thing. That's the $1 million question. What the hell is going on?
I think they're able to treat these patients almost on a one-off. And look, I ain't no doctor. We've already determined in the show I'm not a lawyer, and I'm now about to say I'm not a doctor. But I think on a one-off, can they create enough serum from those that have gotten over Ebola to treat the patients here in the United States? That's likely. That's not something that is going to be a long-term effect for the thousands of patients that you have worldwide that are dealing with it. The medications that have worked, Z-Pack or whatever, there was no more of that, and it was an experimental drug. Whatever has worked, from what I understand, they're trying to mass produce now, and those treatments are not going to be available until later this year, probably in December. Now, that's, again, just what I've heard from general reports. That would be to treat people worldwide. But I guess, like I said, in these cases that you have in the U.S., where you have just limited people who have had exposure to Ebola, who haven't walked all the way down to the point where they're near death, maybe it's an easier situation to treat when you use this serum.
Okay. All right. Hey, this last story I saw, I don't know if you guys caught this or not, but apparently some father took his family to the football game in Denver, the Broncos game, and then he disappeared. Yeah. They say he went to the bathroom, went for a hot dog or something, and he never came back, and no one can find him. No one knows what happened. And it's like, that's wow.
Well, they all look alike.
Oh, look who's here.
Oh, there she is.
You know what?
That ain't even right, man. That's not even fair.
Look who's here.
How are you guys?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
Look, what do you feel about this guy who's missing from the football game?
I don't know. I think he just said, I'm out of here, and he left. Nobody kidnapped him.
He's not at your place. He's not at your place, is he?
No, hell no.
The man is at her place.
Yeah, that, and he ain't my type, so he can stay wherever he at.
Ain't right. La Loca, ladies and gentlemen.
La Loca, who is the midday
Is there fire going
personality.
on in your house?
Yes, this is Washington, D.C. We have fire trucks.
It's okay. I found God today, so you're lucky.
Okay, I got you.
Bye.
Let's be strong here, by the way.
La Loca.
Aaliyah's here. You want me to tell her?
Oh, yeah, I'm here. I'm just here.
Aaliyah, he's here.
Sorry.
She's the midday announcer at the radio station Mark works at, though. So I'm thinking if I'm one of the kids,
she's not getting paid because she's on every episode.
If I'm one of these kids and my father disappeared like that, I'm wondering, did he leave because of me? Because you know how kids tend to blame themselves for a lot of stuff, and it's like, I mean, why would you do that? Why? I mean, but then again, maybe he got jacked. I don't know.
I mean, he obviously got jacked. His first NFL game. He had like $50 in his pocket. I think he got jacked. Why? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. You're shaking your head, Troy. What?
I don't know. I mean, it seems strange. There's so many things that happen at a football game when you think, and I know you guys have all been to many football games. I'm just thinking. It made me think back to a time when I had a rental car and I went to a Baltimore Ravens game, and make a long story short, I would park near the stadium, take the metro train down. It was just easier, and it was cheaper to park. Mm-hmm. So I get back from the game, Ravens win. I get to my car, I've lost my keys.
Oh.
and I'm thinking about the fact that it's now 10:30 at night.
Damn.
If I go back to the stadium, if anybody's there and they haven't locked the gate, what do?
Right.
They're not going to find my keys. So, I can only imagine. That's just one. People lose their wallets. People get robbed. People get sick. All kinds of things happen when you have 75,000 people gathering at one place and then leaving all of a sudden. And that's what happened to me is minor. What happened to this guy, it's the perfect place for something nefarious to happen.
Well, damn it, man. What happened to your keys?
Yeah, what happened, man?
Well, I never got my keys back. Unfortunately, it was only the rental car key. I had to go to a dealership. I can't remember what kind of car it was. I had to go get a new key. $150.
Yes, see, that's a scam, man. That's
Wait a minute,
$150.
so the rental car people had you go to a dealership?
They didn't have a spare?
Either way, they were gonna charge me, let's say, $200 for
Right.
a replacement key, or I could go over here and get a key for $150.
Man, that's a pretty expensive game, man.
And good thing we won, man.
I'll never forget it.
Man. Well, that's all I got, man. You guys got anything?
Let's see. He blasted Bill Cosby.
Sounds like a no. Sounds like I was sad when that St. Louis Cardinal outfielder, Oscar Taveras, died. He was only 22. His girlfriend also died. She was 18, and they died in a car crash in the Dominican Republic. He had nothing but future ahead of him. Everybody had him labeled as a future star in Major League Baseball, and for that to happen like that, it just goes to show, man. Just tomorrow ain't promised to none of us.
You're right.
It was very sad, and thoughts and prayers to his family. But that's a tough blow, man. But what are you gonna do? You gotta move on. You gotta keep moving. You gotta keep pushing forward, man. But that's tough, man. Because one, we're not supposed to bury our children, and two, when you have someone who has that much potential, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if he got run off the road, if he lost control of his car. I don't know exactly what happened. I wasn't there. I do know family members had to identify him because he didn't have any ID on him.
Wow.
So that's tough, man. But, man, rough. Well, I guess that'll do it for me. Huh?
To lighten the mood before we go, Halloween is right around the corner. Are you all participating?
No.
We have a party at Thursday. I work until midnight, but I'm going to try to go by.
You got a costume?
It's just a simple mask,
Yeah. No.
Hello?
I can't afford to give out candy. I may go trick or treating for some eats, man. So
Tony's going trick or treating for dinner.
yes.
You guys have any meatloaf in there?
Yeah, somebody drop a pot roast in my bag or something, man. Because
Sorry.
we got you prayed up, man.
Yeah, that's right. Only got fun-sized meatloaf, so.
all right, man. So we'll wrap it up right there. Appreciate you watching. If you can give this a thumbs up, you can share it. That helps a lot. Subscribe to the newsletter at talking360.com.
Not if, do it.
Check out our other shows, Men on Scandal and I, Tony Tech. And, of course, I have a daily podcast you can check out, too, on talking360.com. All right. In New York City, that's Mark Clark at Radio 1039. In Washington, D.C., that's Troy Johnson. I'm Tony Scott in my basement, and we'll see you next time.